Well, hey friends, it's Thanksgiving, and I want to talk to you today about remembering the good. It's easy to remember the bad stuff. The schools are closed and I can't see my loved ones. The election didn't go my way. I'm all stressed out. Those are the things we don't want to remember. And now you've got 364 days to remember the bad, but Thanksgiving is all about remembering the good. In the Old Testament, God commanded his people to take a holiday to remember the good. He called those festivals. He called them feasts. They were times of remembrance, times when his people needed to stop their busy lives and remember what God had done. And it wasn't a suggestion, it was a commandment. Stop what you're doing and remember the deliverance. Remember the miracles. Remember how the angel of death passed over your houses. Remember how I parted the Red Sea for you. Remember the manna I rained from heaven. Remember the water I brought forth from the rock. Now you might be thinking, Pastor Ben, God hasn't done miracles for me. God hasn't delivered me like that. Yes, he has. But you just need to remember. Remember how God came through for you. He got you into that college. He gave you that wife or that kid. He made a way so you could afford that house. He found you that job when you thought there was no way. But God knows that sometimes you're like the Israelites. You forget. You forget who delivered you from that health scare, from unemployment, from a pandemic. You forget who's faithful, who's almighty, who's looking out for you. You need to remember the good. And remembering the good is important. When the Israelites crossed into the promised land, Joshua told the leaders of the 12 tribes to pile up 12 stones by the Jordan River. And it seems like an odd thing to do, but here's what Joshua said. He said, "We will use these stones to build a memorial. In the future, your children will ask you, 'What do these stones mean?' Then you can tell them they remind us that the Jordan River stopped flowing when the Ark of the Lord's covenant went across. These stones will stand as a memorial among the people of Israel forever." Let me ask you a question. Do you have anything to be grateful for? Yeah, of course you do. Now, how are you going to remember them? How are you going to pile them up? How are you going to show your kids that God came through for you this year? How are you going to show them that of the specific victories that God has given you? God wants them to see how he's worked in your life. But sometimes we remember the things that we should forget, the pain, the loneliness, the criticism. Let me tell you this, your kids are tired of hearing you complain. They're tired of hearing how hard it is. And now this Thanksgiving, help them remember the good. Tell them about the victories. Remind them of their wins. Say to your kids, this turkey is a memorial stone for how God has blessed us. And I'm saving this wishbone. And every time you ask me about that old crusty wishbone on top of the fridge, I'm going to remind us that God has brought us through the pandemic, through the school closure, through all the crises, just like he brought the Israelites through the Red Sea, through the desert, through the Jordan River. People need to remember that the promised land is on the other side of this. Your kids need to hear you say that tomorrow will be a better day. They need you to help them remember the good. The apostles wrote several times in the New Testament, they wrote this, I am writing to remind you. In 2 Peter, he writes, "Dear friends, this is now my second letter to you. I have written both of them as reminders to stimulate you to wholesome thinking." I want you to be like the apostles. God wants you to be like the apostles this Thanksgiving. He wants you to remind people, stimulate them. Be the mature Christian in the room and remind your families of the good. Be the grown-up and pray a prayer of thanksgiving with them. Be their leader and erect a memorial stone for them. Taking a holiday to remember the good isn't God's suggestion. It's his commandment. Bless your families this Thanksgiving and be blessed yourselves. Pass this message along, and I love you guys. Happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you.